Colin Charnock, British. Been a project freight forwarder since leaving university, and very much enjoying the chosen career. I started out, first of all, if you want to know about my academic background, my hometown was Oxford, a very, very academic place. Then went to university and studied a very interesting degree, but not particularly useful for commerce or anything else, come to think of it. And this was back in the early 80s, and my father said to me, you've got to get yourself a job, boy. And my mother said, there are no jobs in the UK at this time. It was fairly bit of a deep recession in the UK, winter of discontent, that kind of era, and no jobs there. So she said, go west, young man. So I basically took her advice, but I went east.
Okay.
Having got a job, first of all, in the UK, I got into the shipping business because I just was looking for something international travel that would take me around the world. If I had an ambition, it was probably to see the world. I think it's probably fair to say
You've achieved that.
I've achieved that, yeah.
How many
Lots of
times
countries I
over?
haven't been to. Well, there was one crazy period when I was actually just sounds like boasting, but I was a gold member with Lufthansa, with British Airways, and with Emirates. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
You're never off the plane.
Never off a plane, but those days have stopped, actually, thank goodness. Well, I mentioned my mother said to me, go east. After literally, I think, 7 months working in London, I got the opportunity to go to Abu Dhabi, and I spent 3 years in total in Abu Dhabi. I spent a year in Houston, and then I spent 2.5 years in Singapore. So this was in my 20s, thoroughly enjoying it, but really, most importantly, just gaining fantastic experience of those regions. First of all, I travelled in the Middle East extensively in that period. I travelled around Southeast Asia. I travelled around America, and being a European, I had that knowledge too. So it was a fantastic grounding and a fantastic schooling. And this was for a company actually that was involved in project freight forwarding in a big way, had their own global network. But it wasn't run very well. They expanded into areas of business nothing to do with project freight forwarding that they knew nothing about. The project freight forwarding company was generating the profits, and then they diversified into all sorts of what I would call them crazy businesses. Really crazy in the sense of not associated with project freight forwarding. So for me, it was a fantastic experience of how not to run a business. It really was. I could see what was going wrong. And towards the end of 87, it was really a case of when is this company going to go bankrupt? Not if, will it go bankrupt? It was going to.
Right.
So myself and a gentleman called Nick Harsant, who's a bit of an industry legend, sadly now deceased, but he was a great guy and a big name really in the project industry. He and I decided that we could actually do this on our own, at least partially on our own. We felt we needed some backing. We wanted to get appeal to big multinationals like the BPs of this world, the McDermotts, those kind of companies in the project industry. So we could hardly go along and say, hey, Colin and Nick, Project Freight Forwarding Limited. So we needed a backer of some sort. And we had 3 or 4 options, actually, investors, co-investors. And one of those happened to be the Transglobal Group. And they had everything in their business, in their organisation, except project freight forwarding. So we appealed to them, and they appealed to us, and a project freight forwarding company was born. And of course, we stole the name, or not? We took the name Transglobal, which, of course, in itself is pretty good, really. Transporting global. That's what we do.
Yep.
And Transglobal Projects. Also, TGP is quite a nice little acronym. So actually, the point there was we wanted to be masters of our own destiny to a degree, and Transglobal Group took a majority share of our business, and Nick and I took a minority share of the business, and as I say, the company was born. And then almost a critical key point occurred. The company that we were working for, sure enough, they did go bankrupt literally 4 months after Nick and I had left them, not because of that, but they did go bankrupt, and we were in place to pick up that company's clients. and also some of the colleagues that we had. They moved to join us, and so we very, very quickly got established with some very good customers. And in actual fact, one of those companies, it's McDermott. That's a customer of ours continuously since April 1988. So I thank them very much for that, actually.
Right.
So that's that.
And fast forward to today. So, what sectors or regions are driving most of your activity?
Okay. Regions, I would say, we're very, very active in Australia, United States, as I talked about a few moments ago. Brazil is a big area for us now, and Europe, actually. Let's not forget Europe. I know people have been knocking it a bit. It's a bit of a laggard compared to Asia, but
we hear that a lot, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Middle East, the Saudis and Qataris have been investing like crazy. Iraq's come back into the market a lot. It's a big area, big market for us as well, actually. So I'd say, yes, Iraq. Yeah, Africa not so much. It's just not our focus, and of course, no one's looking at Russia these days. So those other areas are where we're active. And if you talked about sectors, then I think the main sectors for us are mining, oil and gas, and power generation, really.
And I guess it's relatively unusual to have a company of your sort of size, isn't it? Because there are a lot of very small or very large, which means you're in quite a good spot.
Yeah, I think we are these days would be described as a medium-sized enterprise. Yeah,
you happy with that? You think you're about the right size?
Yeah, no, definitely. I wouldn't want to grow much bigger. Sure, there is room for expansion, but not too big. Indeed, we can control what we've got. We can control a bit more. But I marvel. I honestly do at these massive companies who employ literally tens of thousands of people. It's phenomenal how they do that. I'm really impressed by it. I can't ever imagine myself being able to do that. So we're quite happy as we are, more or less.
And you've been very lucky to get a very good person in Malaysia, where you've just opened up, somebody that's well known in the industry, Ling Ling.
The famous Ling, and she really is famous. I would describe her as an industry legend. I think I did on my own comment on our LinkedIn post about her. And actually, it's attracted the largest number of LinkedIn likes we've ever received for any post.
Wow. So well done, Ling Ling.
But well done, Ling Ling, indeed. Yeah.
So tell us why you wanted Ling Ling and why Malaysia looks good to you.
Why Ling Ling? Oh, okay. Well, because aforementioned reason. She's a highly experienced lady. She and actually her reasons for leaving her previous employee were really she wanted. Well, she can speak for herself, of course, shortly, but to expand her knowledge, if you like, and expand the level of service she was providing. And why Malaysia? Well, it's a competitively priced country compared to, let's say, Singapore. We talked about that earlier, being very expensive. But Malaysia's got its own industry. It's got particularly oil and gas, of course, but also power generation. And I think it's a business-friendly country. People are there to do business, and a lot of our clients are there. We're really following our clients.
But it's not the easiest market, is it?
No, it's not. No, Petronas require you to be a local company, basically. So that's one thing. And Petronas is the dominant player in that market. And I think you have the power generator called TNB. But anyway, our client base is not Tenaga Nasional nor Petronas. Our clients are the oil and gas service sector, really, and engineering companies that are based in Malaysia. So it's a good market, we believe.
And where are you else in the region in Southeast Asia?
Singapore only is our only other presence there. But I used to live there, so I know Malaysia very, very well. I know Indonesia very, very well, and we're not against working on projects there. But as we mentioned earlier, we just can't be everywhere. Don't want to be everywhere. It would just take our focus away from other good markets. But who knows? One day, I think Indonesia, for example, is a fantastic market. It's a huge country, 200 million people spread over 11,000 islands. And energy hungry and energy rich. It's got a lot of resources itself. So it would be an interesting market for us one day. Vietnam, another interesting market, I think. Again, large population, manufacturing country, exporting country. So maybe there as well one day. Who knows?
Well, once Ling Ling's cracked Malaysia, she'll have opened those, no problem.
Absolutely. Well, in actual fact, she's targeting that region, but we want to target Malaysia primarily.
And I saw you've had a hydrogen project in the Netherlands. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, industrial gases is one of the sectors that we've been serving for many years, actually. So I look at it upon the fact that hydrogen is just another industrial gas in that respect. So, but we're very pleased to have won it. I think there's further investments coming in, certainly in Europe, by that particular client in that particular industrial gas. So we're very pleased to get on that project at an early stage, really, in the evolution of the hydrogen business throughout Europe. And
is that generally a sector that you're targeting at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, projects cover many sectors, and I mentioned earlier about mining, power generation, and oil and gas. We're still heavily involved in that business, but actually we serve a lot of other sectors. For example, rolling stock. That's a sector in itself. It's a big sector. We serve the brewery business,
which you know a lot about.
I do.
We might get onto that later.
We might. But also within the power generation, we're talking about wind here, we're talking about solar, we're talking about nuclear. There's so many. It's huge. I mean, the actual power generation sector and power distribution is just massive, and that's really we're spending a lot of effort on our clients in those sectors right now.
Today's episode is brought to you in partnership with SAL, one of the world's leading carriers in the maritime transport of heavy lift and project cargo. SAL operates one of the most advanced fleets in the sector, with service speeds of up to 20 knots, dynamic positioning, fly jib capability, ice-class vessels, vast open deck space, and combined crane capacity reaching 2,000 tons. Together with SAL Intermarine, they operate around 80 multi-purpose and ultra-heavy lift vessels, supported by a global team of more than 1,200 people and 27 offices in 23 countries. Part of the Harron Group, SAL is known for quality, technical innovation, and a strong commitment to safety and environmental performance, including its latest Orca-class new build program, setting new benchmarks for green technologies. And through the JSI Alliance, customers can access a combined fleet of around 90 heavy lift, multi-purpose, and offshore vessels, further strengthening their global capability. Find out more via the link in the description below. So when you look back, what have been some of the most complex or memorable projects that come to mind? What are you really proud of?
I would say back in 1999, we won literally a mega project. It was 1.5 million freight tons of cargo, and it was called Karachaganak, and it was in the western part of Kazakhstan. And this was in the early days, really, of the opening up of the CIS, as it was known in those days. And there are two aspects to it that were really groundbreaking, I would say, in many ways. Number one, and probably the most important, was that the client, the Oilfield Developing Consortium, they looked upon logistics as being a really key part of their project. It was in a very difficult part of the world, and they chose to take a sort of a partnering view of us. So, and they gave us incentives to for example, on payment. They actually, rather than sort of not penalise us, but rather than pay us like 90 days later after the shipment had been moved, they were giving us incentive to actually give us advance funding, that kind of thing, which was fantastic. It's really very important to us. So it's the partnering element of it was really a very key to the success of the project. In actual fact, I would say their attitude towards us, but also it was complex because the scope of work was just massive. I mean, we were moving aggregate, we were moving traditional project cargo, we were moving people. We were literally moving people from the closest airport to the job site, and we even, I think, for a period of 5 years, we even actually set up an airline, a passenger airline, purely for that project.
Did you have gold status with them as well?
Was that what? So
did you have gold status with them as well?
I didn't. I rarely travelled on it myself. Too busy doing other things. But we were even moving things like sewage. We were looking after warehousing, and it was a literally groundbreaking project. I describe it as.
Yeah.
But not the only complex one. I think another one that was a lot smaller in size, but much more recent. About 6-7 years ago, just before COVID, we got involved on a tour to Antarctica, which is a relatively speaking unique project. There's not many people who work down there. I can tell you that.
Wow!
And the client was ultimately it was the British Antarctic Survey, and they had decided to retire the Shackleton, the survey ship that they had down there, and bring in the Sir David Attenborough, this new 200-metre long research boat, and that was being built, and for which they needed a new jetty because the other jetty for serving the Shackleton was just too small, so they required a construction company to build a new jetty. That's all well and good, but an awful lot of planning went into that because we chartered a ship, we consolidated all the cargo up in Teesside. It all had to be, the biosecurity was a massive thing. But of course, if you think about it, if you're building something down in Antarctica of that scale, a 200-metre long jetty, literally everything, down to the last glove, had to be on that ship. There's no shop down in or suppliers just around the corner in Antarctica. So the planning went into it. I really like what one of our colleagues said. He said this is the Earth equivalent of a lunar landing. The planning that went into it. It was really quite phenomenal. And the crew had to have health checks before they went down there, and the heavy fuel had to be burnt off before it went below a certain degree of latitude, and so on and so forth. Oh, and I think really one amazing fact of it was that the ship was on 24 hours notice to get out of the discharge port because if the wind changed in the wrong direction, the ice pack would blow against the ship and actually crush it. Right. So it was literally on 24-hour standby to get out. It had 24 hours to get out.
You've got one shot at it.
You had one shot. Yeah.
And did you go?
I did not, no, sadly. I'd love to go there one day. Fantastic.
So with your offices around the world, what would you describe the culture at TGP, and how do you try and keep that consistent when you've got a global operation?
Well, actually, I hate red tape. I really do. I dislike red tape. And I was really pleased, actually, that two colleagues that joined us from other parts of the world, one of them literally said that there is no red tape at TGP, which I really like. And another chap said there is no internal politics, which is really nice. And that's really pleasing to me, but it's also one of our mantras, really. I don't care whose toes anyone steps on in the organisation in the pursuit of excellence, if you like, and getting the job done and keeping the client happy, including me. People step on my toes too, so I'm not fussed about that at all. So that is our culture, really. And I know it's a real cliche to say it, but it is a kind of a family there. And people come, people go, that's fair enough, and people go on to other jobs, absolutely fine. But generally speaking, we retain staff, and a lot of our staff have been with us an awfully long time.
And how involved are you personally in the business?
Highly. Day to day, hour to hour.
Okay.
I think I was actually thinking by the end of this year, I will have been to our offices in Sao Paulo, in Houston, in Holland, in Germany, in Switzerland, UK, Perth, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, and Brisbane. That will be my travel plan this year. I've done some of those already, going on to do those later in the year. But just being in touch with colleagues as well as clients in those countries, and not forgetting our partners in the business as well.
And tell us why your head office is just up the road from my old house in Kent, which not many people know as the Mecca of project cargo. What's the significance of Paddock Wood and now Sevenoaks?
Well, the business used to be in Dartford, and which of course is very close to Tilbury. That is a traditional port area. But in the good old days, when clients actually used to visit us, it was quite important that to be somewhere central.
Okay.
That stopped a long time ago. Clients just do not come to our office anymore. Let's put it this way, very rarely. And actually, we moved from Dartford just down the road to Sevenoaks because it's close to where the team lived. People were from that area, actually.
Which is an important reason today.
It's a very important reason, yeah. Reduce travelling time for our colleagues. I mean, they're the guys who go in and out every day. So that was one of the reasons for being there. And it's a very nice place. It's very accessible. It's 25 minutes into London, and It's a very nice market town, commuter town on the outskirts of London.
So the UK is still an important market for you?
It is, actually, yeah. And I was thinking about that the other day. You know, there are more and more projects actually in the UK. Okay, it always used to be, when I go back decades back to 1988, that kind of year when we started, North Sea was an important market for us in those days. But actually, you know, we've been, because, you know, the power generation market in particular has seen an amazing revival in the UK, whether it's substations, whether it's, you know, nuclear power stations like Hinkley, or whether it's projects like HS2, the railway. It requires tunnel boring machines to be shipped in for that. So, yeah, I mean, there's just more and more projects in the UK. It's quite a wonderful thing.
It is. And as we said, you've been in the business a long time. What do clients expect from their project logistics partner today that they didn't, say, 10, 20 years ago? How's the business changed?
How's the business changed? It's definitely changed. It's geographically, it's changed, I would say. It just never ceased to amaze me how new areas crop up. I mean, a few years ago, you wouldn't have thought that Namibia is going to be, you know, swimming in oil and gas, or gas in particular, I think.
And that's very recent, isn't it?
Mauritania, exactly, around Africa.
Yeah.
Suriname and Guyana is another case in point. So the new markets somehow just seem to open up all the time. So that, because it traditionally used to be Middle East, some parts of North Africa, US Gulf, and of course, where else? Oh, Southeast Asia.
And outside of work, what do you enjoy doing? What are your interests?
Well, cliche to say family, but I've got 3 lovely kids and 2 lovely grandchildren, so they never ceased to endless source of joy and fascination. But also, for me personally, I get involved in a lot of sport. I engage in skiing a lot. I love skiing. I go hiking a lot. I jog. I'd rather jog than run.
I was going to ask why you decided to live in Switzerland, but skiing and hiking, now I know.
A lifestyle change. It was literally that. It was, you know, it's a beautiful country. It's not very far from my home in the UK. I can't see myself being forever in Switzerland, but enjoying it while I can. And in actual fact, my kids, of course, as kids do, they go to university, they leave home, and that was a chance for me to really go back to doing what I did previously and live overseas. In my 20s, I was living overseas, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Different culture, different experience, different language. And yeah, so that's why I went, literally for that. Nothing to do with tax, I can assure you. I mean, I really mean that generally, because Swiss people pay a lot of tax, and they have a very expensive lifestyle too.
Very expensive.
Yeah, so, you know.
People say, oh, there's not enough to do in Switzerland, but...
Oh, my goodness me. It's endless. It is literally endless, especially if you're an outdoor sort of person. And most of the Swiss are, I find. It's, there's just endless amounts of hiking, snowshoe walking, cross-country skiing, swimming, cycling. It's there. So it's a lively place, an active place, and the Swiss people are lovely, I find. So it's a great place to be. I recommend it.
And tell us about the beer project. Is that still going?
It's not, sadly. No. It hit the dust in a year ago. Actually.
Oh, okay. I remember hearing about it a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you were brewing beer in the UK, is that right?
Yes, in Kent, in hop country. That's where they grow hops in Kent. So it's a traditional beer county.
Yeah.
And we had this idea to get on the real ale, the real ale bandwagon, if you like, craft ale, let's call it that. And
what sort of style?
Yeah.
What sort of style?
Oh, what sort of style?
Yeah.
Oh, the IPA and this kind of stuff, and traditional English bitter.
Yeah.
What our continental friends would call warm beer, which isn't warm, but it's certainly warmer than their freezing cold beer.
Yeah.
And we got this fantastic brewery and made an investment in it, and we got other people to run it. But it's an extremely tough market, and ironically, we survived COVID. Actually, we had a fantastic brand, we had a fantastic brew. But actually, it was just difficult to get it into pubs. You actually have declining consumption of beer in the UK, like in many countries. Tax was a problem. Energy prices increasing. Raw materials increasing. It was a really, really tough business environment, but it ran for 7 years and we had great fun. It was never going to be the next Brewdog or anything like that, but we really, really enjoyed it. And the investment, frankly, was very low. It's just like the cost of a golf club membership, that kind of thing.
But you got to drink a lot of beer along the way.
We got to drink a lot of beer and have a lot of fun. But it was a bunch of friends of mine, actually, who
it is tough,
socialised.
though. We've got a small honey business in my family, and it's people say food.
I love honey.
Food and drink is... I can't remember who it was. Some entrepreneur was saying, I wouldn't touch food and drink. One of the hardest to make money.
It is, yeah. I think you've got all sorts of. We talked about red tape earlier. I think you've got a lot of red tape in the food consumption industry. It's got to be properly to suit customers. It's got to be really checked. And
so we've decided it's easier to make money in logistics than it is food and drink.
It's certainly not easy. We work extremely hard to make money. Let me tell you. I wouldn't call it easy, but it's fun as well. I think myself and my colleagues generally, we really love being in our industry. It's a lot of fun.
And lastly, nominate somebody to be on a future episode of the podcast. Who do you think would be really interesting that people would like to hear from?
What, here and now? My goodness me. I've got it. There's a very fine gentleman called Steve Hill, actually, who's the global logistics manager for McDermott. And as I mentioned earlier in this interview, that's our longest serving. It's our longest client. We've been with them for 37 years, something like that, continuously. So I would say Steve Hill. Great guy.
I'll give him a shout. Thanks very much, Colin.
Thank you.
Cheers.